Imagine you're driving down the highway, cruising along at a steady pace, when suddenly your hands and feet are no longer needed to control the car. How does it know where to go? That's exactly what autopilot in planes is like. Autopilot isn't magic. It follows directions just like you would if you were navigating with a map or GPS. It's like having an excellent navigator who knows all the roads and can take over when you're too tired to drive. Autopilot might sound like some high-tech wizardry, but think of it as a co-pilot who is really good at following directions. Just like how you might have a friend help set the table, picking up plates and filling glasses. Autopilot helps the pilots by keeping everything in order. First off, autopilot's main job is to keep the plane on its course. Imagine you're driving your car down a road that has lots of turns. You'd be constantly checking the map and adjusting the steering. Autopilot does something similar, but with incredible precision. It watches the aircraft's flight path and makes tiny adjustments to the wings, that's right, those flaps you see on either side, and rudder to keep the plane going straight. And here's the surprising part. Autopilot is incredibly good at maintaining altitude, too. Think of it like a drone that can hover in the air while you control its movement. The autopilot constantly checks if the plane is ascending or descending, and if needed, makes small adjustments with the elevators, those little flaps on the back of the wings, to keep the plane level. Now let's talk about speed. Just like a car cruise control keeps your vehicle at a steady pace, autopilot can maintain a constant airspeed for the plane. This is crucial because different speeds affect how much lift the wings generate, and thus how stable the aircraft remains in the sky. The third one surprises everyone. Autopilot also helps with turns. When you need to make a turn, the pilot would normally adjust the rudder and ailerons, the flaps on the wings that control rolling. But autopilot can do this automatically, so the pilots can focus on other tasks or take a break. Incredibly rare is an incident where the autopilot completely fails. Pilots are trained to handle such situations. And because autopilots are so reliable, most flights are flown with automation for long stretches of time. All right, so the autopilot has its job description, but how does it know where to go? Just like when you're planning a road trip, pilots need a set of directions before they can rely on the autopilot. And guess what? It's not that different for how you use Google Maps. First, let's imagine you're getting ready for your road trip. You know where you want to go. Let's say from New York City to Los Angeles. Before you hit the road, you would look up directions on a map or in an app. Pilots do exactly the same thing. Here's how it works. Pilots use special navigation systems called FMS, flight management systems, or flight management computers. These systems are like the navigation apps of the airplane world. They help pilots plan the most efficient route from point A to point B. For example, if you're flying from JFK Airport in New York City to LAX in Los Angeles, the pilots will input this information into their FMS system. The system then calculates not just the direct line between these 2 points, but also considers factors like wind direction and speed, air traffic control constraints, and weather conditions. Once the flight plan is set up, it's fed to the autopilot. It's like giving your GPS device a detailed route, so you can follow it even if you fall asleep behind the wheel. The autopilot will constantly check its position relative to this planned route, using sensors and navigation systems that are similar to how your car's GPS works. So, just as we use Google Maps to get from one place to another, pilots use advanced navigation systems to plan out their entire flight path before they take off. This way, the autopilot can follow these directions automatically once it's engaged. Okay, now that we know autopilot gets its direction from the flight plan, how does it actually help the plane stay on course? Well, imagine you're driving in a car with your GPS. You input where you want to go, and the GPS gives you turn-by-turn directions. But if you start to veer off course, the GPS will gently nudge you back onto the route. That's exactly what happens with an airplane's autopilot. The plane has sensors all over it. Think of them like a super smart GPS for planes. These sensors constantly check where the plane is and compare that to its flight plan. Let's break it down step by step. 1. The sensors. Imagine these sensors are like little eyes and ears on the plane. They can sense things like the angle of the wings, how much the wind is pushing the plane, or even changes in altitude. It's as if each part of the plane has a tiny robot that's always watching and reporting back. 2. The computer. Now think of the autopilot system as the brain behind all this. The computer receives the information from these sensors and compares it to what's programmed in the flight plan. Just like when you get an alert on your GPS saying, "Turn right now," the autopilot calculates tiny adjustments needed to keep the plane headed where it should be. 3. Tiny adjustments. These adjustments are incredibly small, like adjusting the power of the engines by a fraction or slightly changing the angle of the flaps. But over time, these small changes add up and make sure the plane stays on its course. It's like constantly making tiny steering adjustments while driving to stay in your lane. And here's the surprising part. Even if the pilot takes control at any point during the flight, the autopilot is always working quietly behind the scenes. It will help the human pilots keep the plane steady and safe by providing real-time information about changes in wind or other conditions. So, just like how a GPS keeps you on track while driving, sensors and computers work together to make sure the autopilot can keep an airplane safely on its route. This constant check and adjust method is how autopilots ensure that the plane stays on course, no matter what's happening outside. All right, so far we've talked about all these incredible sensors and computers that make autopilot seem like magic. But here's a surprise. Autopilot isn't always on. It turns out pilots have a lot of control over when to use it. Imagine you're driving your car. Sometimes you might let the cruise control do the work, especially on long highways where you want to maintain a steady speed. Other times, though, you'll want full control, like when making sharp turns or dealing with traffic. It's exactly the same for pilots and autopilot. And here's the part most people don't know. Even when autopilot is engaged, the pilots still have the ability to take over at any moment. They can grab those yokes or rudder pedals whenever they need to. It's like having a really smart co-pilot who knows when to step in and when to let you handle it. So why would pilots choose not to use autopilot all the time? Well, there are a few reasons. For example, during takeoff and landing, the conditions can change incredibly quickly. The pilot needs their full attention to make sure everything is done just right. Plus, sometimes they might want to use the plane's systems for maintenance or other tasks. And here's another interesting fact. Autopilot isn't always available in certain weather conditions or when flying through turbulence. Pilots know that during these times, having their hands on the controls can be crucial for keeping everyone safe and comfortable. So remember, while the autopilot does a lot of amazing work behind the scenes, it's still just there to assist the pilots. The human touch is every bit as important. So, here's the big reveal. With autopilot, planes can fly safely with minimal human intervention. Imagine having a highly skilled chauffeur who takes over to ensure you arrive at your destination without any issues, making flying even more safe and reliable. And here's the surprising part. Autopilot systems are incredibly advanced. They use sophisticated sensors and algorithms to monitor the aircraft's position, speed, and altitude. Think of it like having a super smart assistant in the cockpit who can read road signs and traffic patterns better than you ever could. These systems constantly compare real-time data with pre-programmed flight plans. If there's any deviation, a little too high or a bit off course, they correct it instantly. It's like having an autopilot that not only drives but also steers, brakes, and even changes lanes all by itself. Now, let's think about the safety aspect. In times of turbulence or unexpected weather conditions, autopilots can make adjustments much faster than human pilots could ever do manually. They can handle these situations with precision and calmness, reducing the risk of accidents caused by human error or fatigue. Autopilots also help in managing multiple flight parameters simultaneously. For example, maintaining a steady speed while keeping an eye on fuel consumption and ensuring smooth passenger comfort. These are tasks that even the best pilots might struggle to manage all at once without assistance. The autopilot system works in harmony with the crew. Pilots still have full control when needed, but can rely on these systems for routine operations. This redundancy ensures that no matter what happens, there's always a backup plan in place, making flying incredibly safe. So, if you ever feel nervous about flying, remember this. Even when autopilot is engaged, it's doing its part to ensure your safety. It's like having an extra layer of protection built right into the plane itself. If you'll never look at a plane the same way, you know what to do.